Welcome back to Boring Land. Nick here.
Gabe.
And we are ready for the review that has been asked for so many times. Now, you would think something that we request as much as this movie, you would think it's going to have like the most views ever. But typically the one that they're most excited about,
Right.
It's like a smaller core of hardcore fans that just sounds like a million voices. But what are we reviewing today?
We are going to review Gangs of Wasseypur.
Wasseypur.
Wasseypur. It was a purr. Man. Woo.
Part one.
Part one. Okay. What did you think about the movie?
All right. So, quite honestly, I've been holding this one in for a while because I did finish it about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I was waiting for someone else to check it out so we can do a duo review here like we typically do. And we were told so many times, this is the Godfather of Indian films. This is a great film. Don't let your kids watch it.
Not for the kiddos.
All this stuff. And I went into it with high expectations. I tried to taper them, but I really did. And talking about part one right now, I absolutely love this film. I really do. They did not lie to us. It is a film where the actors in this movie, I did not recognize any of them. Right. Now, I know that the one that played Sartor, and I saw Faisal, that actor. I saw him in a reaction just recently. But anyways, I know there's some big-time actors, and some of these actors, these our fans just live and die by, but I didn't know any of them. So for me, it was almost like a low-budget indie film, but done very, very well.
Yes.
It does not rely on special effects. It does not rely on CGI at all. It's just a story of these families. And the thing I liked about it was so many times throughout this movie, I could not predict what's going to happen next.
Right.
Maybe not until maybe the end, but even what happens at the very end, we won't get into it yet. I wasn't expecting that. Now, this movie came out in 2012. We are not going to try to do spoiler-free. We're not. This has been out for almost 8 years now.
It's too hard to talk about this movie without spoilers,
Yeah, so honestly. This is going to be spoiler talk. We're not going to go overboard, but we are going to share some spoilers. But my first impression after watching it, I really enjoyed it.
You know what? I remember, again, reading the comments with you and thinking, wow, they're comparing this to The Godfather? Like, that's up there. You got to understand, The Godfather, actually, Godfather 1 and 2 have actually been put into, what's the Hall of Fame for movies? Or actually, it's
AFI Top 100 and all that
top
kind
100
of stuff.
movies of all time. The movie's been retired.
Well, the third one was nominated for an Oscar. I think the first two won the Oscar. The first and third won the Oscar. But anyway.
So, I mean, when you compare a movie to The Godfather, again, that's very, very high accolades. So you walked in, like you said, anticipating this movie, excited. I walked in cautiously optimistic, but I was concerned because I'm like, I'm gonna be candid. I'm gonna be honest what I think. That's just how I am. And I'm like, when you compare it to one of my
too, man.
When you compare it to one of my favorite movies of all time, it better be that good. And I tell you what, the movie did not disappoint. I was shocked, man, at some of the violence in this movie. Ooh. It was wow. It was insane. And then I remember, I forgot where I saw it, but it was like, look, there's a difference between a gunfight and a knife fight. You know what I mean? With a gunfight, really, it's over quickly and it's not as bloody. It's very, very, with a knife fight, you got to get up close and personal, and it's a lot more gruesome,
emotional.
Oh right? Yeah, and I'm telling you, because this was the movie takes place over a span of 60 years. We start in the 1940s, right?
Long time.
A lot of the early violence, they don't have firearms. It's just knives and machetes, and man, there were some scenes there I was like, oh, this is unbelievable. But I like the story.
So many scenes that were awesome.
I like the story, and I can see where it parallels The Godfather. Do you want to do the quick synopsis, or should I?
So, I mean, there's so much going on in this film. We start off with Shahid Khan. And he's just like a low-level guy, a regular guy, and he wants to better his situation.
Right.
So he starts robbing these trains, right?
Right.
And I will fully admit, and I know you guys are going to tell us in the comments, I will fully admit there was some cultural things, there was some things in the story that I know I missed because it goes by pretty fast, a dialogue at times.
Right.
And there's so much, I don't want to say innuendos, that's not the right word, but there's so many assumed things going on that I was just like, okay, I'm trying to keep up. So we're going to make some mistakes, but it seemed like he was kind of overstepping his bounds on what trains he was robbing or something like that,
because
right?
he was using the main Don's name when
There
he
you
did
go.
it.
Yes,
so
there
if
you
you're
go.
using the main Don's name when you did it, now you're implicating me in the crime first and foremost. And a lot of times, and you'll see throughout this movie, that just the name carries weight. A lot of people are like, oh, that's who and who? I'm not messing with him. Whatever. That's who and who. So when the main Don found out about it, that's where really the two worlds intertwine. Because like you said, Shahid Khan's initial character, he's a low-level guy. He's not really even involved with the gangs of Wasseypur. He's not involved or mobbed up, so to speak. But because he's robbing trains with the name, it gets back to the Don, and hence the beginning of our story.
And there's a shot. There's so many beautiful shots in this movie. The cinematography, honestly, it should have been nominated for an Oscar that year, because there's a shot where Shahid is coming out of the coal mines or something like that. Yeah. And he's got all the black all over him.
Right.
And these guys try to pick a fight with him. But just the way, like, I don't know, the way his hair was and the coal all over the place, and he was just kind of, protecting himself. For some reason, that was a really awesome shot for me. And there's so many in this. For me, this movie, the way it was shot was kind of like a very realistic feel. Where, again, we're not looking about glitz and glamour. Let's just tell a story and make it gritty, but also make it look really high def and whatnot. But he goes on and he's doing this thing and he's starting to, gain a little bit of a reputation. And then all of a sudden he's having a conversation with the guy with glasses or whatever that guy is, right? And then boom, someone just shoots and I'm like, oh, it's that kind of movie, huh?
And if I remember correctly, the movie actually starts off on them going to somebody else's con, not Shahid Khan's house.
And that part was so confusing. And you hopefully we'll see it in the second one, this scene.
It's more in the future, obviously. We don't get there. But they're going, and I mean, these guys, they have guns, and they're literally have bombs. I don't know if it's plastique or some type, they aren't grenades, but some type of bombs, and they're throwing it, and they're trying to find this
some
guy.
House or something.
They get to
and they're
this
telling
house.
people, get in your house, get out of the way.
And again, the people see them come with the guns, and they're like, okay, bye, good. They close up their houses. They got these metal gates in front of their houses. So that's the first scene. So then we go back, because you can tell you go back in time, because they give you the time frames.
Thank goodness.
And they give you the time frames, yeah. And then, like you said, that's when we get introduced to Shahid Khan, and the Godfather locates him. Then he starts working as a muscle man, which is basically hired help for the Godfather.
I heard about that, yep.
And he starts working as muscle man. He's the Godfather's best muscle man, right? He intimidates everybody. He's beating everybody down. He's carrying respect. But now he's carrying too much respect. And it's one of those things where, since he's the street level guy and the Godfather hasn't even been seen in a while, the Godfather starts getting concerned, like, wow, he's carrying too much respect and too many people are fearing him and not my name. And of course, as in many stories, when you're starting to get too big to the top guy doesn't like that. So then, like you said, he sends him to get killed because, again, that was from my interpretation, he just didn't want him getting too big because all the other people in the neighborhood out in Wasseypur started recognizing him as a Godfather when he really wasn't. He was working for the man, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. That was a huge point. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. I knew I was going to forget.
So the Godfather kills him. However, he sent him and his whole family. That's how these guys do it. When they say we're going to kill everybody. There's one in the scene they say, kill the wife, kill the kids, kill the dogs. I'm like, what did the dogs do? You know what I mean? What do dogs do? Testify in court? They're like, kill the dogs. But they don't. They don't kill the kid, and the kid grows up, and now we're gonna follow his story in the future.
And for me, I was still trying to get an idea of how do I feel about this movie as I'm watching it. And after Shahid dies, and the narrator he's telling the story the whole time, he talks about when Sardar was a kid and he found out, which is Shahid's son, that his dad was killed by Ramadir. He makes a vow where he cuts his hair,
right,
and he says, I'm not going to grow it back until I get revenge for my father.
Right.
And for me, just that one narration point and that one idea of I'm going to avenge my father, for me, that was when I really got hooked into this movie, and I really made a connection with this movie. And this is what this movie's not a perfect movie, but this movie does very, very well of presenting the epic, so to speak, to where we want this character, the audience, to understand that this character is a big deal. And so they did a great job, the narration did, by doing that without just having flashing lights saying awesome character, which is okay in some kind of like Robert Rodriguez type style of film, but this is not that kind of film.
Right.
So I really like that. And then right away for me, I was like, all right, I can't wait to see you get some revenge too, because I like the Shahid character. I didn't want him to die so soon. So I'm on board with Sardar as he's growing up and he's learning this or that. And this guy is ruthless, man.
Ruthless. Absolutely ruthless. I gotta say, he was my favorite character. His acting is amazing. And I think that one of the things about his character, and I remember he's the one that they show in the trailer when we reviewed the trailer, we reacted. He's got the mustache, and he cut his hair voluntarily because that's, he vowed that he was gonna get revenge for his dad. But he was so menacing. It was just the look in his eyes, man. This guy is. He's walking on the street. You can tell I'm not gonna mess with this guy.
And he has such a confidence about him. Real quick, the actor's name is Manoj Bajpai.
Right.
He does a phenomenal job. Hats off to that guy. He did a great, perfect job. Sorry to cut you off of being so confident and kind of cocky a little bit.
Right.
I mean, even when he gets caught by his wife being with another woman, and he blocks the woman in front of him so he doesn't get hit because he's afraid of his wife. And he's like, it's her fault. She made me do. I mean, this guy. The nerve on this guy.
There was no comedy really in this movie, and there shouldn't be because this movie that wasn't the tone. At all. But the one comedic part was that because, like you said, he's so confident, and his wife catches him with another woman. He's an adulterer, right? And she comes with a butcher knife. And his wife is no joke. She's also gangster. She comes with a butcher knife to cut him, and he's like, "Wait, you might hurt her because he's put her in front." She's like, "I cut her.
I don't care about her. I'm gonna get you."
That was hilarious, man.
And the wife, phenomenal actress, phenomenal character. She was such a strong character. I mean, she brought up. They have boys later on. She did a phenomenal job throughout the entire movie. So I'm going to get into my biggest complaint of this first movie. And I don't think it's a big deal. But I actually have two complaints. I'm going to get into both those right now. One of my complaints was when they were showing the years and the timeline, 1951, 1957, 1960, whatever it was. The characters themselves, as the times aged, there was really not too much effort to make them look that much older.
Right.
So like when we see Sardar when he's young and he's skipping out on his wife or whatever, I mean, let's say he was 25, 30 years old. The timeline's like 25 years later. He looks like he's only aged 5 years.
Right.
It wasn't until the very, very end where they started to add a little bit of that aging for him, but it really wasn't much. So that was one of the things that kept kind of taking me out. Like, you want me to believe that this is 20 years later, 15 years later? He's been in the game for 20 years now. And then my other complaint was that the Ramadir, who had no problem hesitating killing his father, Shahid, he allows Sardar to do all this stuff. And we'll get into all the stuff that Sardar does to kind of form his gang and get his thing started. Right. Why didn't Ramadir, and he was the minister, all this kind of stuff, I mean, he was a big deal politician where he's at there. Why didn't he just get rid of him real quick, too? Because at first he had the means. Sardar didn't have a big group of people or a big name out there yet. That was my biggest complaint. I feel like it was done because we wanted to tell this story of this family and how you rise from nothing to use violence and other means to get to prominence, and that's fine. It was a great story in this first part. But did that bother you at all? Or it was kind of just, it was too easy for him?
It didn't bother me, and I'll tell you why.
Because he was a driver, and then all of a sudden, no, I'm going to start ripping off from you and do my own thing.
I'm driving for you guys, basically, and then I'm going to start ripping you guys off.
Yeah.
And I we might have missed it there, but I think that there was actually one above Sardar's, Ramadir's head to the main Don guy where, hey, I had this guy's father killed, okay? So I think there was a little of like, look, I don't want to, you know what I mean? Like once he found out, like, oh man, this is his son. Remember when he calls his henchman? He goes, "Didn't you tell me you killed them both and buried them?" So again, it was, and you kind of mentioned this earlier. Once he says his name, now the other Godfather is like, "Oh man, I had this guy's dad killed," and he was more like, "Okay, I'm removed from the street at this point." If 20 years ago, he was kind of removed from the street. Now he's really removed from the street. Like you said, he's a powerful politician. So he kind of looks at him like, look, he's an ant. He's a nobody. I'm not going to go down there and muddy myself with him. Gotcha. And I could see that happening because at least here in real life mob stories, most of the big dons that get taken out, like for instance, John Gotti ended up killing, I forget the name of the real don that I think it was like Joe the Boss Masseria, somebody like that. In any event, that's what made him famous. But John Gotti at that point wasn't a real big guy. He was a capo. You know, he was coming up through the ranks. And even before that, it was one of those things where once you become so big and now you're just collecting money, you're off the streets, you're not really putting in work, so to speak. The soldiers lose respect for you. Everyone loses respect for you. And if you're removed, you really have to kind of think to yourself, do I want to get in the trenches with this guy? So that part didn't bother me.
Do you think part of it, too, I'm just wondering, did Ramadir somewhat feel bad for having his Shaheed killed the way he did without maybe trying to... Do you think he felt guilty and that's why? Because he does tell his son, and I feel bad for his son because, I mean, his son's just not him.
No.
I mean, he's like basically calling him worthless, a waste of whatever, but, you know, his son... At certain points, gets all fiery. I want to do something, and he's like, "Don't worry about it. I don't have to worry." I wonder if he just felt guilty for what he did.
Maybe he felt guilty for it, but I know that once, because our main character, not Sardar, he wanted everyone to know it was him, so that everybody could know.
100%. He
put it out there because, again, I guess in Wasseypur, that's how you gain respect. As a matter of fact, there was one scene where they chopping up some guys, or what it was, super bloody. They're chopping up some guys, and the guys are getting poked, and the cops come, and then the people from Wasseypur are like. Wasseypur. The people from Wasseypur are like, these are the local people there. Nothing happened. And the cops are like, well, I got to investigate. There's a thumb on the ground. The guy's like, I got to take that with you. Take what? He puts up the meat cleaver to him, and there's like 30 guys out there with their meat cleavers. That was an insane
scene where he just kept going back, and the guy kept getting up, and he just kept going back.
It was crazy.
And that's another great thing about this movie was it seemed like this is really happening out there in the streets right now. I mean, very realistic.
Absolutely. I think that...
And like you said, they didn't really have guns until near the end, right? He started getting some crappy guns that kept firing on their hands
those
or whatever.
Those are zip guns.
So they didn't really have the kind of firepower. I mean, they were just, like you said, they're just going in there and putting the fear of God in people, and they're trying to hurt people and, you know, get revenge on certain people. Very... strategic and surgical.
His name carries weight. That's why he wanted to. He went to jail. He in the movie for a short period of time because he wanted everybody to know he did it. And then after he comes out, now he's gaining more respect. He kind of runs for some kind of politician in town, and that again, I know it has something to do with the coal mines. I did not understand the actual position.
I missed some of that too.
But it has something to do with the coal mines. And you know, going back to this movie, I kind of realize, and no matter what movie you watch, when it comes to organized crime, when it comes to gangs, it's always a byproduct of something the government of that country has done or that the authority of that country has done. I'll give you an example. What really was the rise of organized crime here in the United States, in America? What gave the rise to the mafia?
Here in Las Vegas, it was casinos and gambling and whatnot.
But even before that, they had power at that point. We're talking about before that. Prohibition, man. Before Prohibition, these guys didn't have that kind of power. There were small little gangs running around town, but they started making their money, their millions, once the United States outlawed liquor, and now they're importing it. Same thing over there. It was the corruption of the government with the coal mines and of course, the whole, and that's, I'm not sure if it was Britain taking over land or they're getting it back from Britain. I couldn't quite understand that part of it. But it has something to do with
They got their independence in the 50s, so this is pretty much right after that independence. And I kind of understood it as Indian government is now established, and you know, you're going to make some mistakes.
Right.
And it's like you said, some of those mistakes are going to have repercussions. You're more than likely going to have some people who, under Britain's rule, are just waiting to get their own independence for India so that maybe they can be the ones who are corrupt and taking advantage of the people. So you had a lot of that stuff going on. And plus, I got the impression that Wasseypur wasn't really the finest place anyways. So it was
lawless, man.
Sardar definitely saw his opportunity where he lived, or where that was at in Wasseypur. He saw his chance. He had his own goal in mind. Again, he wanted to take revenge. He could have easily just taken out Ramadir, but he wanted to just take everything from him that he could and make him pay. And in the process, his head started getting big.
His head started getting big.
And he found a new girlfriend.
He had his wife already, who he had children with. Then he found a new girlfriend who his wife was going to butcher them both up.
And that story was kind of weird. Like, he was just like, no, I know she likes me. And eventually she did, but she was very shy. And that was an interesting story. I thought the actress did a great job for that character, too. And then they have a son, and he's already got other sons, and so he's not living with his wife. He's living with this mistress right here.
Right.
And his sons, Faisal and what was the other son's name? The older one. The oldest one. I can't remember.
Let's call him Sonny, because that's who he is. He's Sonny
from the Godfather.
From the Godfather. He's a hothead. He's the oldest son. He's a hothead, and.
But I'm trying to find the name of the older Dinesh.
Right.
So they got there over there, and what we haven't mentioned yet are his two main guys, his two main henchmen, right?
What was with the haircut? The one with the bowl haircut? I remember watching the movie thinking that guy wouldn't be intimidating until I saw him straight walk up to somebody and boom, poke him like, oh.
I mean, you know how we both understand receding hairlines. I mean, you can't control that sometimes.
The haircut was like, he looked like Friar Tuck, man. But I'm like,
both of them did not look intimidating, but they were the most loyal friends / henchmen you could find. To the point where one of them that was getting close with his first wife.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I wouldn't have blamed him if he started a relationship with her because Sardar was gone with his mistress. Right. And he was dad. He was taking care of everything. And that was a great scene, too, where you got Faisal as a kid coming downstairs, getting some water or whatever, and he sees him about to do something, and he is just, as a kid, he knows what's going on. He's mad about it. And his friend starts to punish himself.
Self-punishing himself,
with that because he felt so embarrassed. It'll never happen again. His two friends, his two henchmen in different ways, they were fantastic.
Right.
If he didn't have those two guys, he wouldn't have had a chance because they did whatever he said to do and they trusted him. There's just so many components. But then he has his son named Definite with his mistress.
Right.
And I mean, there's so many things that we're missing here and there. There's so many political parts. There's so much with Ramadir and his family and everything. And the best part of this movie is by far Sardar and his rise and how he can't control himself. He just gets so narcissistic with it, and he portrays it so well.
Here's the thing. Like you said, is it not a perfect movie? It's not by any stretch of the imagination. It's a great movie. I love the movie. Good. I love the movie, but I tell you what, I knew it was coming, but it made me angry when it did happen because it's like
the end.
Yes,
I did not see it coming.
You make me care about this character, and I'm just waiting. I saw because, like you said, he had the opportunity to kill Ramadir, but he didn't because now the greed has got to him. His head has gotten so big. You know, Ramadir put him in a position where he can't help himself. He can't help himself, and you see him start slipping and making small mistakes here and there, and even his own henchmen are kind of looking at him like, "Dude, you know, what are you doing?" But whatever, they're loyal to a fault. And then, you know, what happens is you see that people start plotting against him, okay? Including, spoiler alert, Definite's mom. His other son, Definite, his mom...
And she gets Definite in part of it, too, as a little kid. How messed up is that?
And as a little kid, she gets him in there, so he goes to see her. She says she doesn't want to see him, whatever. So he gives Definite the money, tells the mom, all right, tell her I came by, I'll be back tomorrow. Right then and there... Mom picks up the phone. She's like, he just left the house. So I saw it coming.
Well, obviously at that point you saw it coming. Okay, I didn't see it before that.
The night before, his son, Faisal, who's kind of like, let's call him the Fredo of the group. He's a screw up, okay? He doesn't even belong in the world of gangsters.
Because I wouldn't call him a screw up, but he definitely is like, he doesn't really care about that part. Yeah. He definitely has that gene inside of him where you don't really want to mess with this
he
kid.
Goes and makes a gun deal earlier on, and he gets caught, right? With the same guy, goes to jail for a while, finally gets out, or whatever. Because they're trying to get firearms, because, you know, again, the times are changes. It's 20 years later, they need firearms instead of knives. So he goes to the same... Why would you go back to the same dealer to make the same gun deal?
Because he wanted revenge.
But no, he didn't know. If you notice quickly, he just went back to the same dealer, and the dealer tried to sell him the very same guns he got caught with the first time. And the way he knew it was because he had scratched something on one of the gun's handles, because that was like the one he had marked for himself. But his dumb self went back to the same dealer. I wouldn't go to that dealer. I wouldn't even. I just got caught making this gun deal.
I looked at it as he still wanted revenge. He wanted to make sure that this guy was going to mess him up. And I mean, honestly, because he did not fall for the same thing twice when he goes back on the train.
No, No, and then he stashed the guns at that point. Okay, so he's not a screw up, but let's just say he's not the sharpest one of the whole bunch, because these guys are real stone cold killers and gangsters, and he's not that way. That he actually ended up killing that arms dealer, which I loved that part about it, and I love that part about it because the guy's like, wait a minute. He sees the gun and he sees the mark on it. He's like, oh, so that's your gun. This is the same guns. I was wondering how you sold these guns so cheap from your dad's factory. Boom, and shot him right there. So he was gangster.
That guy's crazy.
In any event,
all that nonsense.
Fredo, because we're gonna call him Fredo. Here's why he's a screw up. He's supposed to be his dad's muscle along with some other guys, and that night. He's with his boys, he's with his friends, and they're smoking hashish. And he's like, oh, your dad got plenty of guys. He doesn't need you. So he's like, yeah, you're right. We're just going to hang out up here on the roof and smoke hashish or whatever. And then, so he's not there to pick up his dad. He's not there in the morning to pick up his dad. And then somehow somebody else made a phone call to try to get his dad's protection away. So when dad leaves in the morning to go drop off the money to Definite's mom, he's unprotected. He's alone. And it's like Julius Caesar, you know what I mean? He's got enemies all around him, surround him, but he cannot see it. And I'm like, how can you not? He wakes up in the morning, where's Faisal? Oh, he's not here. He stayed out last night. Where's so-and-so? Oh, he's not here. He had to do something out of town. Like, how did it not click to him? Like, man, I better not leave. Like,
because he can't help himself.
Because he's just thinking I'm the man.
I hate the part when they gun him down, because I want to see the second one, and I want to see him in that a little more. Obviously, they might do some flashbacks for this or that. I really did like the Faisal character, though, the little that we got, because I feel like I can see what they're building with him. I really like
You liked him? He got his dad killed, man.
I understand.
That's my favorite character.
But as teachers, we meet all types of students, right? All types of kids.
Right.
And not all of them are going to be those A-plus kids. Some of them are going to be those kids that are struggling and could be like a screw-up from time to time. But you see the potential in them.
Right.
I like the way they're building up this character. I really do.
Right, because you're right. He did catch on to the arms dealer was being crooked. And so I see that.
I mean, think about Godfather, right?
Right.
Al Pacino's character in the first one, he was not portraying someone who's going to be the new Don later on,
he was
right?
a military. He didn't want anything to do with his family. He's a military
doesn't
guy.
that make the story more interesting he sees what needs to happen? Anyways, we haven't seen the second one, so I'm not sure. But I'm interested with that. I did not like Starter being killed. I understand why it had to happen.
I don't understand why it had. I mean, I
did. The Sultan guys drive me crazy. Someone better take him out in the next one.
So he goes up, of course, and like every movie, true.
And that Sultan guy's your boy from Street. I'm just saying.
I know.
Professor.
Wow, what a different role does he play, man? From the professor, I know all things, to now I'm a straight gangster, stone cold killer.
I think it was Arj's comment, or someone else has said he's a very versatile actor.
He is a very versatile actor. But again, here comes the downfall, and everybody has it. All good movies have that arc, because it can never just be rise. And they set him up, and that scene reminded me so much of The Godfather when Sonny, because he's a hothead, goes to, because his sister just got beat up, and he gets blocked on that bridge, and again, they always get him on their own, and it was crazy. I saw the bike pull up behind him, and he saw it, and he just couldn't react quick enough. And they absolutely destroyed that car.
He still got out. And
he was trying.
And I was like, oh, he's going to live.
I thought he's going to live, but I was like, nah, he took way too much lead, man. He's going to die of lead poisoning, if anything else. But, R.I.P. R.I.P. Sadar, you were my man. You carried this movie. But that's what I was mad that they took him away from us, and I know there's a Gangs of Wasseypur Part 2, but this is my only complaint. Like, this is a kind of movie similar to Avengers Endgame, where it's not a standalone movie, because if you end the story there, it's a horrible story. There's no comeuppance. There's no.
But luckily, we can just turn on Part 2 right when it's done. We don't have to wait a year.
We can watch Part 2. Or what's another movie like that? There's been a couple movies, by the way, that are like that.
Lord of the Rings was like that. There was 3 of them.
But I kind of felt that, like, as a standalone movie, No Country for Old Men. That's a good example. How at the end it's just like done, and the bad guy wins, and you're like, what did I just? You feel unfulfilled.
But you gotta remember, this movie, and I think they are both released the same. This was a 5-hour movie technically. It's just a Part 1 and Part 2.
Okay.
And this is 2012, so I mean, tell us in the comments, but I'm pretty sure it got released, I'm not sure at one sitting, but at the same time, so it's Anyways,
got you.
For us, we just gotta wait for the second one.
All right, you ready for a grade?
Oh yes. So for the part one, and it's not really a full grade, but part one, I mean, come on, this is a solid A for sure. I'm not gonna give it an A+ just because, and it's not really the movie's fault, but I was kind of lost at times, and so I wasn't really fully understanding some of the cultural stuff, but and I felt some of the things were convenient, like I had said, with not taking out Sardar early on. So you take him out, the driver's too big for his britches. Don't have to worry about it no more. Send Sultan over there and take care of it.
Right.
But the acting was phenomenal. Cinematography was fantastic. The writing was really good. They definitely liked the F word in this movie, which I think I'm one of the few people alive that cannot stand that word. Luckily, I don't know it in Indian, so it was just there on the subtitle. I can skip over reading that.
Right.
But solid A for me.
Solid A. I tell you what, I'm going to give it an A- because, again, I don't feel like I went in expecting Godfather. If you watch The Godfather by itself, it's a standalone movie. You don't need part two, okay? They finished that story there. In part two, actually, of The Godfather, you actually have, it's a dual movie where they're showing not Vito Corleone's rise to power, and Michael Corleone's rise to power. But it could have just been a standalone movie. And here was my problem with this movie. I get that you're saying that it could have been released all at one time. I'm like, they killed my boy. What's gonna happen next? No, that's it. And cut the black. What? Nothing else. It left you wanting more.
I'm like, convenient place to stop. Come on.
You know what like buy my ticket right now.
Yeah, that's why they did it.
But the fact that I don't like when you have a movie that depends on the second movie, because what happens if that second movie never gets released or never gets made? I know that's a scary thing.
You listen to this guy, his favorite movie of all time is Endgame.
But Endgame was the second part, not the first one.
But it's not a complete movie. You had to have the first part first.
It completed the story, though.
Oh,
it completed the story.
Goodness,
but
this guy's killing me.
I'm saying A- is a good grade. Okay. And I'm also mad at Faisal. Okay, you got your dad killed, man. What are you doing? Come on, man. Oh, it was so angry.
He likes his pipe, man. What can I say?
Did I miss something, though? Why was Definite's mom so angry at him? She knew she was the other woman. She knew from the very beginning that she was the other. She knew he was married and had other kids.
You think that matters? Her husband,
she got him killed.
Mr. whatever it is, he's the leader of his own gang. Okay, she is almost like she was born into the world before she met him, because she was so innocent. She hadn't been with the guy or any of that kind of stuff. She didn't even talked that much. She's with him. He's going. You pay for your own mistakes. So he, in my opinion, corrupted her to a certain degree. And then she took what she learned from him and she moved it forward. And everyone's got pride. Everyone's got an ego. And she was ticked that he went not crawling back, but he went back to check on his.
I got that part,
but I'm not even care about his other kids. It was definite, and that was it. And I mean, Ramadir obviously was sweet talking and this or that. I mean, her allegiance was non-existent,
and I didn't understand that part. But maybe it's a cultural thing. But that also made me angry. Like, why would she flip? She knows she's the other woman. But then, in any event,
man.
Again, guys, thanks for sitting through this long review. It was a long movie, but it was fabulous. Again, I give it an A-. Nick gave it an A, and we're excited to watch part 2. Again, being a busy time of year for us, the holidays, school, it's going to be a few days, but we will definitely get that out there for you guys. Don't forget to leave your comments. That's where we've gotten all these great suggestions. We read all the comments, we respond to all the comments, so we appreciate that. Make sure if you're not already subscribe, give us a thumbs up. That definitely helps. And until next time.
Adios.